Behold, I come quickly. Hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown.
Good evening. Calgary Transit has launched a rainbow-wrapped bus to celebrate the upcoming Pride Festival. But the idea is not sitting well with everybody. As Kevin Green reports, one bus driver doesn't like the message it sends.
First it was the Rainbow Crosswalk, now it's the Rainbow Bus. Calgary's Pride Festival starts Friday, and Calgary Transit hopes this encourages people to get on board.
Our doors are open to all Calgarians, regardless of their background. So really this is to celebrate that diversity, some of the excitement in Calgary, and to color up a bus and have some fun with it.
Calgary Pride says a rainbow bus running through the city shows just how far things have come.
It's a sign of the change of changing Calgary. There's still much to do as far as LGBT rights are concerned, but we're excited that there's such public displays of pride across the city over the next 2 weeks.
But not everyone's excited about the bus and its message promoting pride. Transit driver Jesse Rao has strong Christian beliefs and says he'll refuse to drive the rainbow bus even if it costs him his job.
If I'm asked to compromise in such a big way for what I believe to be right, then yes, of course I have to lose my job. There's nothing else that I can do. I'm put in a corner.
Calgary Transit says it's a condition of employment. Drivers can only refuse to drive a bus based on safety issues, and driving a rainbow-wrapped bus doesn't qualify.
What we would do, open a dialogue with them and chat with them and ask them about their issues and making sure we're being sensitive to their beliefs. But overall, the service has to go out, and we would ask them to drive the bus.
Wrapping the bus cost $9,000. Calgary Pride and Pattison Advertising paid for most of it. Calgary Transit cashed in a $2,000 credit it had with Pattison to fund the rest. The bus hit the road Thursday afternoon and remains in service until its final appearance in the Pride Parade on September 6th. Kevin Green, CTV News, Calgary.
Yesterday, just before my shift started, I was on my way to work, and then they called me in for a meeting. So then I changed my plans and went to the meeting, and where they told me that I was fired. I understood that they were going to review this. It was going to take a long time because it was the day before. It took 5 hours for them to finish their, I guess, interrogation of me, and that was the conclusion. So it seems to me that they had already made their decision.
What did they say to you, though?
That I'm terminated, and they didn't like certain things on my Facebook. I had 2 posts that were anti-fascism posts. It's something I'm very concerned about. Least we forget is the quote, right? I was in the army, and that I don't want to. I think that history repeats itself when you forget it, and so I'm concerned about these issues. So I had 2 posts on my Facebook that were anti-fascism. They didn't like the nature of that. And the other reason is talking to the media about me being against this agenda that they put into my workplace. Well, I think that the union somehow is checkmated in this situation. The gentleman who sat beside me was the second from the top, Neil Armitage, and he seems like a bulldog fighter, and some reason he was put in a position where he's not really able to defend me too much. When we left the meeting, he goes with the assumption that, hey, we're going to appeal this. but he also confided in me that it's not going to go anywhere. They're just going to slam it down.
A Kansas 7th grader banned from handing out event flyers at school because her flyers contained some Bible verses. Meanwhile, the school is fine with posters about dead rappers and drugs, but not a flyer that includes a Bible verse. Well, now she's fighting back because religious speech protected by the Constitution, isn't it? Well, here to weigh in, Fox News senior judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano. All right, so she was handing out these flyers. She wanted fellow students, and not a lot, she handed them out apparently quite sparingly. She wanted them to join her at the flagpole for a prayer before school.
I do not think that this case is a close call. I think the school is so obviously wrong and misguided here in its efforts to maintain order by suppressing the freedom of religion. First of all, students theoretically have the same constitutional rights as the rest of us. That includes the freedom of speech and the free exercise of religion. Now, this girl's not trying to have somebody celebrate Mass in the hallway of the school.
Right.
She's simply passing out literature saying, if you'd like to talk about Jesus or if you'd like to talk about the Bible, I'm happy to meet with you at another time and another place. Schools can restrain speech if the speech is disruptive. But when the speech is not disruptive, and when it's especially protected in the Constitution, like speech about religion or speech about non-religion, they cannot interfere with it.
Well, here's the problem. The school has got a policy, and we've got a statement from the school. Quote, the distribution of any religious material is prohibited on school grounds or in any attendance facility before, during, or after the school day or school activity. So you say they've got that rule, but that doesn't fly.
That rule is unconstitutional unless they can show that the mere distribution of this literature interferes with the mission of the school. Listen, the schools have a lot of authority to control the behavior of their students. They can even control the behavior of the students off of school grounds and after the end of the school day, if that behavior could arguably affect something that would subsequently happen on school grounds and during the school day.
And that's in the interest of safety?
Correct. It's also in the interest of the fact that they have a mission. Their mission is to deliver an educational product for which the taxpayers have paid, and students can't interfere with that mission. But where there is no interference, or where the school is not able to show any interference, the default position is the freedom of speech. The default position is the freedom of religion. And this school board has not been able to show any interference with the delivery of the school's mission by this young woman passing out this literature.
Okay, so here's the problem with the school statement. You know, if they say you can't pass anything out because of a safety issue, why are they okay with posters glorifying dead rappers and drugs and alcohol?
Well, that probably gets into the political aspect of this. And again, I don't know the motivation.
But if you're talking about safety, you know, drugs and alcohol, not necessarily safe.
I don't know the motivation, and I certainly don't know what's in the hearts of the people who wrote this regulation, but it's hard to believe that they would have a regulation that would permit you to distribute literature about dead rappers, but not distribute literature about Jesus Christ.
Here's a statement from this 7th grader, by the way, now has an attorney who's fighting on her behalf, and the attorney says students do not shed their constitutional rights at the schoolhouse gate. Non-disruptive private student expression is protected by the First Amendment. Now, that person sounds just like you.
Well, that is a nearly, I'm not going to take credit for it, I didn't write it, but that is a nearly perfect description of student rights with respect to public schools today in the United States of America from and after the most recent time the Supreme Court looked at this, which is about 3 years ago.
So what should happen here?
A judge should enjoin the enforcement of that rule, or the school board.
What does that mean?
That means that she will file a complaint before a judge. The lawyer will file the complaint, and the judge will prevent the school board from enforcing the rule, and she'll be free to distribute the literature. Or the best thing that can happen, the school board admit they made a mistake.
Teaching Satanism in schools sounds like the stuff of horror movies, but a US court ruling on religious freedoms has enabled devil worshippers in Florida to hand out educational material about their beliefs to kids at state schools. Marina Portnaya has this report.
Public education in America often uses coloring books to teach young Americans about math, science, and current events. This year, a new book filled with games and lessons about Satanism could be distributed to students attending public school in Florida's Orange County. The 10-page Satanic Children's Big Book of Activities features characters named Annabelle and Damien who demonstrate rituals to explain Satanism. This expanding wealth of information for America's young minds was made possible after a Florida judge last month ruled that if the Orange County School District allowed Christian groups to disseminate Bibles and other materials in its schools, then other religious and atheist groups should be given the same right to distribute their material. And followers of the Antichrist seized on the decision to treat all faiths equally. A spokesman for the Satanic Temple tells Raw Story that, quote, if a public school board is going to allow religious pamphlets and full Bibles to be distributed to students, as is the case in Orange County, Florida, we think the responsible thing to do is to ensure that these students are given access to a variety of different religious opinions, as opposed to standing idly by while one religious voice dominates the discourse and delivers propaganda to youth, unquote. In a ruling that was aimed at maintaining religious neutrality, students who may never have intended to learn about Christianity, atheism, or Satanism will now receive an introduction to all three. Marina Portnaya, RT.
Of course, most Americans value the right of free speech, and many Christians have embraced the world of new media to spread the gospel. But a recent study says they may not find that so easy. Paul Strand explains.
The new media platforms of our world, Facebook, Google, Apple, MySpace, all promise a world of much more speech and more democratized. But the National Religious Broadcasters Association warns these platforms could well be the new anti-religious censors of our day. It's studied the biggest and says only Twitter hasn't shut up Christians.
It was actually a pattern of anti-Christian censorship that's already occurred among several of them. And then when we looked farther, looked at their written policies, we found out that every one of them, except for Twitter again, they get an A+ from us. The rest of them get failing grades.
Colby May of the American Center for Law and Justice joined with Craig Parshall and others to study the new media platforms for the last year and a half.
There is, in fact, a kind of viewpoint censorship that's going on, and we need to go ahead and stand up and say, stop, not here, don't do it, wrong way, turn around now.
What's getting censored?
Right now it's on the issue of the gay rights agenda.
Apple's App Store has only bumped off 2 apps, and both were from Christian groups that oppose the gay rights agenda.
And you have to ask yourself, well, why just these 2 viewpoints of the hundreds of thousands that you have? And when you get the explanation is, well, some people were ruffled, they felt they were offended by it.
Parshall complains the companies behind these platforms give them
the authority to strip content off whenever other users, for any reason, decide that they don't like the opinions of other users.
Then you're thinking, wait just a minute, we've crossed over into this netherworld of offense is now the justification upon which the rights we have as Americans to fully engage the culture and to debate all issues is going to be decided.
These panelists who came to Washington to discuss the new NRB study urged the Googles, Apples, and Facebooks of the world to instead use the First Amendment as a guide, unfettered free speech.
More speech is better than less speech. Open and robust debate and contending for the things that matter is essential.
Everyone's viewpoint ought to be allowed on these new media platforms.
Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
One high school salutatorian banned from discussing his faith in a graduation speech. He fought back this week. Take a listen.
In coming before you today, I presented 3 drafts of my speech, all of them denied on the account of my desire to share my personal thoughts and inspiration to you in my Christian faith. No man or woman has ever truly succeeded or been fulfilled on the account of living for others and not standing on what they knew in their heart was right or good.
Joining us now is that brave man himself, Brooks Hamby, and his legal counselor, Jeremy Dice. Gentlemen, thanks for being with me this morning. You know, Brooks, when I heard your speech, it was actually one that I marked to save and have my kids watch, but it wasn't one that your school wanted you to share. You had heard 3 times that you couldn't include faith. What did the school tell you?
That's right. Now, the first and second times I submitted my speech last week, the school told me, as well as their attorneys, that any reference to God or Jesus or prayer of any kind was unconstitutional and they would pull the mic on me. Additionally, the third time I turned my speech in, they denied it and handed it back to me with God or any reference to my faith blacked out in black marker.
I mean, but look, all of those, well, some would call them threats against your freedom of speech and religion. Those didn't work out. You went ahead and gave the speech that was on your heart. What made you decide to do that?
Well, at that time, the third draft was denied. That was the afternoon of the graduation. Time was ticking down. I was at a crossroads and really wasn't sure of what to do. But I decided to really stick with what I wanted to give the message, and that was to stand up for my freedom of expression and stand up for my faith.
And what was the reaction?
Overwhelmingly, it's been pretty positive from the community and, nationally as well. I haven't heard anything from the school, but overall it's been a pretty positive experience.
Maybe they understand over 15,000 views that the speech has had. Well done. I want to ask you, Jeremy, legally, are there any repercussions here? Is there any action being taken by either party, either Brooks or the school?
Well, we're going to make sure we pay attention to this because this type of thing is happening more often than not these days, it seems. And it's a sad reality that this type of hostility has to go on. In fact, if you go to our website at libertyinstitute.org, you can read a lot more of these types of cases. It seems that every graduation year, we have another school that is trying to censor student religious expression. Look, when a student has earned the right to address his peers, the school needs to listen to him and not try to censor him. It's just outrageous that a school would try to censor him like this is some sort of top secret document rather than just let him to express the religious belief that he might have.
I think it's easy, to come to a quick conclusion. In politics today, we take a three-dimensional issue or a person, we flatten them out, paste them up against the wall, and throw darts at them. See you cover.
He's the local judge making national headlines for refusing to perform same-sex marriages. Now he's facing his critics head-on and talking with KOIN 6 News. At 11, good evening. I'm Jeff Gianola.
And I'm Jennifer Hoff. Marion County Judge Vance Day is facing numerous accusations of misconduct. Our Cole Miller then is asking him the tough questions.
If this country is going to the place where people who have religious convictions need not apply for public service, then I think we're going in the wrong direction.
By now, you've probably heard of him. He's Judge Vance Day of the 3rd Circuit Court in Marion County, making headlines for refusing to perform marriages for same-sex couples.
People who come here at Marion County, there are plenty of judges who will marry them.
Now he's not marrying anyone, and that's not against the law. But a recent filing by the Commission on Judicial Fitness and Disability raises more red flags. Tonight, Judge Day is answering our tough questions. First, that he had his staff screen applicants.
So there was that message, if you will, to your staff to screen?
Oh yeah, I've admitted that in my in the pleadings.
He says it was so he wouldn't embarrass a same-sex couple that came into his courtroom. And then this, an image of Adolf Hitler in a display case in a room Judge Day says honors veterans. That picture, he says, came from a Salem man who fought in World War II.
There was this painting of Hitler on the wall, so he took out his jump knife, he cut it out, rolled it up, and sent it home. There's nothing pro-Hitler about that framing piece, absolutely nothing.
At the end of the day, do you think that that was an image that was helping or encouraging veterans, young or old?
Hard to tell. Art can be controversial.
He also denies claims he bullied veterans by making them watch videos or read books to spur their post-traumatic stress disorder.
Explain these accusations in your own words.
Well, one has to understand that I'm the one who wrote the letter to the commission and said, there's been an issue that's come up. It may involve an ethical issue, and I self-reported.
That was back in August of last year, circling around the same-sex marriage decision.
Do you feel like you're being targeted by this commission?
I'm not going to comment or try to judge or figure out what the commission's intent is.
Among other allegations, Judge Day says he's waiting for his day to share his story.
What do you say to your critics?
Well, let's wait until November when the evidence comes out. Don't prejudge. I don't want to prejudge the commission. I wish they wouldn't prejudge me.
And now we wait until November 9th, when the commission meets with judges, lawyers, and the public to hold a hearing to see if there should be any sanctions against Judge Day. If so, those recommendations will go to the Oregon Supreme Court. They will have the final say.
Seek the Lord while he may be found. Call upon him while he is near. Let the wicked forsake his way, and the unrighteous man his thoughts. Seek the Lord.
He which testifieth these things saith, Surely I come quickly. Amen. Even so, come, Lord Jesus.